You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
Welcome to Business Access TV's coverage of the annual PSOJ JMMB Economic Forum, where we'll be hearing from top financial experts and successful business owners in their field, sharing their knowledge on how to maximize growth in Jamaica. Stay tuned. I'm your host, Amita Prasad Webb.
In the face of the undeniably heroic efforts by successive government administrations over the past 10 years to restructure our macro engine of growth that is required to catapult the country into the hyperspace of meaningful growth that we all so earnestly desire. Is it that we're risk averse? Is it that we are traditionally hidebound? I don't have all the answers. But I'd like us to start thinking in that direction, because what we know is that it cannot be business as usual. Secondly, where are the real growth sectors? Nothing, and not contributing to the effective empowerment of the larger sector of our population, which has been marginalized into pursuing underground activities that yield very little taxes, generate very little social good, and feed the negative and oftentimes criminal tendencies of our under-equipped population. If we can keep these questions in mind while we absorb the information and reasoning that we'll be hearing this morning, perhaps we can travel a little further down the road towards unraveling the chains that still bind us, such as the low level of access to credit and financial intermediation. Less than 20% or 22% of Jamaicans have access to credit, just a little higher than Haiti. That is not a good situation, and we need to address our minds to breaking that chain. And also the burdensome bureaucracy and cumbersome tax structures that prohibit the entrepreneurial endeavors. And the belief that Jamaica has no indigenous factor resources that are worth investing in. That agriculture is too much of a risk because of bad weather. The belief and the unconscious prejudice against our music and our culture that compels the practitioners of these arts to take the products abroad or restrict the development of these products to the initiative of foreign entrepreneurs. And finally, the low level of interest in our exotic agricultural flavors and fragrances, our medicinal and herbal compounds, and the culture and history that is locked up in our city centers. We need to think on these things. It is my hope that today will generate not only thought, but action to change the direction of our aspirations and behaviors. On behalf of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, I welcome you to the annual Economic Forum and look forward to a robust and productive morning. Thank you.
It's a PSOJ in partnership with the JMMB for today's Economic Forum. Talk to us about your partnership.
Well, it's an excellent partnership. JMMB is a very creative, very flexible partner, and the PSOJ has benefited over the years with the association. They are a member of the PSOJ, so we welcome it. And this forum in particular is an exciting one for us because it signals a change in the paradigm of how we do business.
What would you say are the main objectives today?
Main objectives today are to speak to the whole question of Jamaica's economic resilience and independence. Now that we appear to be making progress in our debt reduction, we want to look at building a foundation that prevents us from going back into being a debt nation. So that one of the objectives of the forum today is to look at how do we promote local investment with the capital that is tied up in Jamaica, and how do we promote investment in non-traditional areas. So you'll hear the panelists speaking to that.
The Economic Forum is an annual event. Would you say it accomplishes its objectives each and every year? Is it really furthering the discussion?
Well, bear in mind that I have only been president for a year, but the reports I have been very good about the Economic Forum. And if this one is to judge by, you can see the attendance is very good, the level of participation is very good, and the excitement levels that are being generated are very high.
It is great that we are gathered here today to consider economic resilience. It means that we're concerned with the performance of the economy under a variety of circumstances. And it means that we want to ensure that under a multiplicity of possible outcomes, the Jamaican economy is likely to be such that our standards of living is maintained. I do believe, and you have heard me say before, that the primary mission of our time is to secure for Jamaica and to achieve for Jamaica economic independence, which is economic resilience under a variety of circumstances. Previous generations would have worked hard, and we benefit from their achievement of political independence. And it is our job to ensure that for this generation and for future generations, Jamaica has the means to secure for itself and for its people from our own resources under a variety of circumstances going forward. And as Minister of Finance, I am squarely focused on this objective. But it's not an easy mission. If it were an easy mission, it would have happened already. Jamaica is a small, open economy. Trade accounts for 80% of GDP. And as a result, the proverbial butterfly flapping its wings in Southeast Asia has a ripple effect on Jamaica. We have practical examples today of sanctions against Russia threatening operations of Windalco, which happens to be accounts for 25% of our bauxite and alumina earnings. We have seen where sanctions against Venezuela threaten us in the energy sector. And we have seen where commodity price movements on the account of wars and rumors of wars affect life here in Jamaica. So how do we build economic resilience in the face of this reality? How do we strive for and achieve economic independence? Well, one of the key distinctions, or the things that separate developing from developed countries, is the absence of strong institutions. And surely the way to build economic resilience and to achieve economic independence is to ensure that we have strong and durable, impervious institutions. And as Minister of Finance, that is exactly what I have set out to do, to catalyze the emergence of strong and independent institutions that can safeguard our economic future. For the majority of my lifetime, and Howard would like me to say for the majority of his as well, Jamaica has been in a program relationship with the IMF. Now, don't get me wrong, the IMF has always come to Jamaica's assistance in times of need, and for that we are grateful. But we cannot be proud of the fact that for the majority of our independent years, we have had to depend on the resources of the international community as represented by the IMF. And you know, the IMF doesn't emerge and we don't enter into a program relationship with the IMF when our roads are bad or when there is a problem in crime, or when the pharmaceutical supplies at the hospital are in short supply. Each and every engagement we have had with the IMF over the last 55 years has come about when our reserves at the Bank of Jamaica have gone too low. And that is why reforms to strengthen our central bank are so important and are so key to the task of economic resilience and economic independence. Later this year, we'll be tabling legislation to clarify the monetary policy goals of the central bank to be focused on price stability, to improve the transparency around monetary policy decision making, and so that information will be available for businesses and for individuals as they make their own choices. The reforms will improve the accountability of the central bank, pivoting the accountability relationship away from the Minister of Finance exclusively and towards the people of Jamaica through the Parliament. It will improve the governance of the central bank and diffuse decision-making, and it will provide for the independence in monetary policy decision-making, as well as strengthening the balance sheet of the central bank to give it the capital base to ensure that the policies that are being pursued can be done so effectively. You see, a prerequisite of economic resilience is external sustainability. A prerequisite of economic independence is to have the assurance for all businesses and all individuals to have the assurance that Jamaica can meet its external obligations as those external obligations come due. And what are our external obligations? Well, external obligations are interest payments that you have to make overseas, whether you are a private company, an individual, or you're a government. It consists of foreign payables that have to be paid by the government and by the private sector, dividends, and other flows. And at any point in time, you can measure the liability space that we have by looking at the external obligations of the private sector and of the government. And economic resilience must rest on a foundation that external sustainability is assured. And that is the principal reason for embarking upon the modernization of the central bank that we are going to do starting in October.
We go to a break, but please stay with us. More after this.
Doggin Global Business Process Outsourcing. Doggin Global can help you with your day-to-day administrative and secretarial needs. We provide solutions for streamlining your accounting and bookkeeping procedures, so you can get on with running your business while knowing that all the accounting and statutory needs are being taken care of. Our BPO services include the following: bookkeeping, preparation of budgets, management accounts, and periodic financial analyses, provision of temporary or part-time accounting assistance, design and implementation of accounting systems, preparation of accounting manuals, payroll services, corporate secretarial services, assisting clients with their business entry strategy into the country, setting up new legal entities, maintaining minutes and other legal documents, non-executive directorships, preparing and submitting annual returns. For additional information, contact us at email info@doggin.global, website www.doggin.global.
It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test. It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test.
Free eye testing is back and it's here to stay. Island Eyewear offers free eye testing every day, all day at all locations island-wide. Conditions apply. Make your appointment today at www.islandeyewear.com or call us 630-1180. Island Eyewear, your style, your price.
It's Island Hour, free eye test.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's go straight to stage to our presenter.
It's one thing to identify problems. It's a whole other thing to actually form the teams around resolving them and having the execution capability to get things done. And I think that there's some structures that have been set up here in Jamaica that are probably better than in many other places. But I would definitely look to see how you could enhance that so you could get more meaningful results in addressing some of these barriers. Because the future of your country is based on it. And no amount of directing people to invest in one industry or one opportunity or the other is going to make the difference. No big project, bring the Chinese and do this, bring people from other countries and do that, get the private sector to invest in agriculture. No amount of this directing is going to make the difference, like freeing up all of the actors to make smart investment decisions easily. With this rapid change, it's going to require a fresh approach and a different organizational model to the organizational models and approaches that we've had in the past. I think we have to have a fresh way of thinking of how we attract, motivate, unleash, and retain people in our organizations. There's a unparalleled changes taking place in the world today, really driven by technology and technological advances that now allow for the speed of communication to be increased and for the processing speeds of computers to take on complex calculations. The cost of storage of data has come down considerably, and all of this is coming together to create this interesting opportunity where we are more interconnected in ways that we've never ever been and never dreamt of before. And there are industries that are emerging with Uber, Airbnb, Facebook, Google, Amazon, these wonderful companies that are doing things globally at a scale and at a pace that we've never seen before. Simultaneous with that, we see that there's a lot of impact that we people are having on the planet. And all of this is coming together in this, great age of acceleration in which, we have to figure out how we respond. In fact, this rate of change has probably gotten to be so fast that our ability to adapt as humans is being significantly challenged, and we can see it in some of the disconnects with Uber moving into countries and regulation, not being able to catch up and keep up with what they want to do. While all of this is taking place on a global scale, we see that here in the Caribbean, we are still, struggling with some of the basics around corruption, around economic growth, strangled by debt, not able to invest in some of the basic things that we need to invest in. And while Jamaica, I think, is a bright spot, having come through this last IMF program and implemented a lot of fiscal discipline, and its economic measures are trending in the right direction. What we think is that you're going to need a fresh approach to how businesses and people look to, I would say, not more than survive, look to be able to operate in this new emerging environment.
We take our final break, but don't go anywhere. We still have more when we return.
Taking the pain out of the audit preparation. Crow Jamaica now offers audit management services, AMS. With AMS, Crow team manages your external audit process by providing the following. 1. Prepare and review schedules for your external auditors. 2. Prepare responses to your external audit team queries. 3. Assign our team members to locate supporting documents during field work. 4. Draft financial statements in accordance with IFRS to supply to your external auditors. 5. Provide guidance to your internal accounting staff regarding classification and recording of transactions. 6. Review your general ledger for accuracy. 7. Prepare necessary journal entries. 8. Prepare fixed asset register. 9. Prepare accounting and operational manual for effective internal control. 10. Liaise with the company external auditors. We work with your team to achieve timely and effective external audits, resulting in timely completion of your audited financial statement, while your current staff focuses on their daily activities. Contact us, info@crowhorwath.com.jm. Website, www.crow.com/jm.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show, and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Thanks for staying with us. If you are just tuning in, we're here at the annual PSOJ JMMB Economic Forum. Please stay tuned for more highlights.
To talk a little bit about the business environment. Whether we use doing business or the global economic competitiveness index, I mean, the trends are the region. First in the starting business, not first, but in the top 5 of starting a business, which is great. But then the question is, what does the business do after it has been registered? And this is where the rubber hits the road. And I said Jamaica is not that bad, in terms of the ranking, but when you look across the indicators, you see that there's huge variability, between the top 5 and going down to 130 among 190 economists on trading across borders. And there are, what we have been doing in other countries in Jamaica, the good thing again in Jamaica is, similar to the good setup of the Economic Growth Council, there is a Competitiveness Council, and they are working with our expert on business environment. They have already identified, what are the bottlenecks, what are the needs, what are the things that need to be done, and trust me, there are low-hanging fruits in revamping some regulations of permits, inspections, etc. There are also longer-term or medium-term, using all of the digital economy, the e-filing, and all sorts of digital platforms, which is longer-term, requires investment. But there is a roadmap. And now, as Mr. Warner was saying, things are known, issues are identified in both disaster risk financing and mitigation and in improving the business environment. Now the thing is, execution and really make those things happen.
That is our biggest challenge. What we are now seeing, and I'm very happy that Dr. Clark is here because he has really been really promoting some of the key changes that need to be made on the technocratic front. This issue of the Bank of Jamaica's independence is absolutely critical. Why is it so critical? Between 1963 and 1993, 62% of the increase in money supply in Jamaica was attributable to the Bank of Jamaica lending money to the government of Jamaica. Lending money that it does not have because the Bank of Jamaica has no money. All right? The only money that exists in Jamaica is the money that we have in our private capacity. The reason the government has any money is because they take it from us in taxes. All right? So when the Bank of Jamaica lends money to the government, it's lending money that it has created out of thin air. that is inherently inflationary. And that is what dominated our economic instability from 1963 to 1993. After 1993, we started to have some controls on Bank of Jamaica credit to the public sector, but we didn't solve our fiscal problems because for the 2 years between from 1993 to 2013, that 20-year period, we borrowed excessively on international capital markets. Thus that by 2013, as again our keynote speaker pointed out, we had one of the highest debt to GDP levels in the region. So we have a couple of things that we have to accomplish. We need independence of the Bank of Jamaica so it never again reverts to what it does in 63 to 93. But we also need independence on the fiscal fronts to ensure that the government doesn't borrow excessively when it doesn't have access to Bank of Jamaica resources. Again, both of those are technocratic interventions so that at the Ministry of Finance you have a technocratic team that has the capacity to understand exactly how we need to function. But then you also need the partnerships and the social capital to put the government in a position where it is not excessively borrowing because it is managing its fiscal affairs, because there's so much accountability at the level of the broader society, and all of us are recognizing that the government has to be held accountable on that front. So it's not a conceptual challenge, colleagues, it's an execution and an implementation challenge.
Another year of partnership with the PSOJ as far as JMMB is concerned. And one of the things we like about being a part of the forum is that it supports a conversation. So what you have is a room filled with some of the brightest minds in Jamaica, top executives, top academics coming together to talk about what's best for the Jamaican economy. And so what we expect from today is no different from the years past. Obviously, things would have changed. We're going through a time of exchange rate devaluation of the Jamaican dollar, concerns about the exchange rate, concerns about inflation. Are we measuring the right things? And so we believe that what's going to happen here today is going to bring a lot of that out and really get into solution mode about what we need to do as a country to get us where we need to go.
Let's talk a little bit about JMMB. You're here today with in partnership with the PSOJ. What's next?
Well, for JMMB, we have always been an organization that has been a little bit different. As a financial services entity, we're not your typical bank or investment house. Based on the vision of our co-founders, we have always been about focusing on our clients and focusing on what's best for the community and for Jamaica. And that's what drives our decisions, it drives our strategy. And so that drove the decision to be a part of this partnership. So it's not just about, providing financial services for people and we collect a fee. Really, it is about supporting them in achieving their dreams and being a part of an ongoing process of solution development that will ultimately be to the benefit of Jamaica and everyone who lives here.
And that brings us to the end of our coverage of the annual PSOJ JMMB Economic Forum. I've been your host, Amita Prasad-Webb, and thank you for tuning in to Business Access TV, serious about business. Brings the creative industries to life. Delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo. Only on Business Access TV.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
I'm Adam Stewart. This is Business Access TV, serious about business.
Jamaica moved 4 places in the recent Doing Business report published by the World Bank. Now, the Doing Business report is based on findings from private sector stakeholders as well as the government. In addition to moving up in the rankings, Jamaica also recorded a 2-point jump in its Doing Business score, moving from 67.47 to 69.7. The country is on track to becoming the place of choice to do business. Hi there, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is Jamaica Magazine. It unfolds right now.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, October 29. Over 1,000 Jamaicans are expected to benefit from free medical services being provided by the United States Navy hospital ship USNS Comfort. The ship is docked in the Kingston Harbor from October 28 to November 1. During a tour of the facilities on Monday, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton thanked the staff for their partnership with the island.
We're very happy to have them here. They have a number of procedures lined up to perform both on the ship and offshore. And it is clear, based on what they do, based on the facilities that they have, that it is a good thing for Jamaica.
150 surgeries will be conducted on board the 900-bed ship to include ophthalmology, general and orthopedic surgery, as well as wound care and urology. Basic medical services including adult, pediatric, dental, dermatology, and physical therapy will also be provided at walk-in sites at the Sabina Park and the Greater Portmore Health Center. The sites will operate from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. Jamaica's 15th Housing and Population Census will officially get underway on April 5, 2021. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, made the announcement Monday during the opening ceremony for the 44th meeting of the Standing Committee of Caribbean Statisticians in Kingston. Dr. Clark says the Statistical Institute of Jamaica has already begun pre-census preparations. He says government will set aside funds in the 2021-2022 budget to ensure that the census is completed over a 3-month period. The Finance Minister has also announced proposed amendments to the Statistics Act.
It is the intention of this administration to promulgate amendments to the Statistics Act to legislate that the census occurs every 10 years. We can't leave it to convention nor to whim. We have to ensure for future generations that this becomes a part of the laws of Jamaica.
The Housing and Population Census provides information on the size of the population in areas such as age, sex, religion, and education. The last census was done in 2011. Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck says audiovisual equipment in the island's courts will become fully operational soon. He says the ministry is currently sourcing proper broad-based microphones to use during court proceedings.
And as soon as we get them, then we will turn over the system to the Chief Justice, where again there might be the need for further training, or we make sure that every sound, every picture is properly captured in the courts.
The minister was speaking on Friday at the Court Management Services Summation Workshop for the Jamaica Judiciary. The use of audiovisual equipment in the courts forms part of the ministry's aim to create a first-class justice system. Minister of Foreign Affairs Kamina Johnson-Smith is calling on the United Nations to increase its offering of technical support to help developing countries such as Jamaica achieve the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) faster. The SDGs, also known as the Global Goals, are a collection of 17 goals set by the UN General Assembly in 2015 and are to be attained by 2030.
I want to also encourage the UN to think about the type of technical advice that may be needed at a higher level or in a greater volume for countries like Jamaica across the region who are dealing with complex issues to support or add to the, of course, extremely competent national expertise which we have on the ground. We're looking to supplement domestic capacity in order to move us more quickly to where we need to be.
Senator Johnson-Smith was speaking on Thursday at a function to mark the 74th anniversary since the establishment of the United Nations. The function facilitated national youth dialogue on the SDGs with over 300 students, including youth with special needs. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, has expressed sympathies to the families and school community of children injured by a garbage truck at the Clancarthy Primary School yesterday. The child has since succumbed to the injuries received when a truck overturned on students at the Deanery Road-based school. The NSWMA's Executive Director, Audley Gordon, says the truck involved in the incident was not owned or contracted to the organization. But notwithstanding, he says a senior team from the MPM Waste Management Limited was dispatched to the school to offer moral support and comfort to the loved ones. And finally, the impact of disaster management and climate change will be the focus of this year's Local Government Month observances in November. Portfolio Minister Desmond McKenzie made the revelation at the recent launch of the 2019 Cross Island Run in St. Thomas. He charged the local authorities to adhere to building codes and disaster management best practices.
The right to build is vested in the local authority to grant that permission. And you, mayor and the team and minority leader and CEO, you must ensure that whatever building approvals are granted is granted for areas that is not prone to flooding.
Mr. McKenzie says the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, will embark on a series of town hall meetings on disaster management during the month. The Cross Island Run precedes the observance, with runners taking the month's messages from the island's leaders to each municipal corporation. This is the third staging of this initiative, which has become an integral part of the calendar events for Local Government Month. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Anna, why you knocking down my door? What is it?
Jackie, I don't know what to do. From Jason dead, I have nothing to give to the children, and I don't know where to turn.
So why you didn't go down to the Administrator General's department, the place I told you about the other day?
Lord Jackie, I know you try to help me, you know, but remember say me and Jason never did marry, you know.
What do you mean by that, Anna? The law say if a single man and a single woman live together as husband and wife for 5 years and more immediately before death, then he or she is considered a spouse.
Really? That mean me can't get something then? Cause boy, it rough, you know.
Yes, man, just go down there, tell them about the case, that Jason died, leaving no will, house and children under 18 years. Go down there and see what them can do for you.
A true you're talking, Jackie. Where you say the place there again?
Down a waterfront, man. 12 Ocean Boulevard. Go down there, talk to them, and see if them can help you.
Okay, I'm going down there right now.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
Good morning, miss. I hear that the Administrator General's department can help me. You see, my children, them father died, leaving me with the 2 pitney them, and I'm me alone I care for them.
Did he leave a will?
Will, ma'am. After Jason never ready for dead, how come him come from work and drop down dead? My friend tell me say under the law, I'm considered a spouse. By the way, who is a spouse?
Under the Interstates, Estates and Property Charges Act, a spouse is a single man and woman living together as husband and wife for 5 years or more. By living together, the two persons should not have been separated at any time during the 5 years immediately before death. A surviving spouse includes a person who is legally married, that is, he or she went in front of a pastor and took the vow of marriage. If Anna meets the requirements, she can hire an attorney at law or go to the legal aid clinic
to apply for an order from the court declaring that she's a spouse. Some of the questions the court will look at are: did Anne and Jason break up during the 5 years? Did Jason have any children born in the same year as Anna's children? The court will also want to know if Anna or Jason were married before and not divorced. Once the order has been granted, the spouse would be entitled to benefit from the estate of the deceased. For further information, you can visit the Administrator General's Department in Kingston, 3rd floor at the Office Center Building, 12 Ocean Boulevard, or call us at 922-183023. You can also visit our Western office at the 2nd floor of the National Housing Trust Building at 42B Union Street, Montego Bay, St. James. Telephone 630-4261. Our website is at www.agd.gov.jm. That's the Administrator General's Department, securing your legacy.
Next, the latest happenings out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister breaks ground for Children's Hospital in Montego Bay, 240,000 square foot BPO complex in Portmore, and commissions $630 million Essex Valley water supply system. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Anthony Morgan. At the top of last week, Prime Minister Andrew Holness reiterated government's commitment to fast-tracking the implementation of the Bernard Lodge Master Plan. This, he said, would be done through the creation of appropriate strategies to ensure all stakeholders' needs are met.
This is not a view that would seek to in any way dislocate, disrupt the activities of persons, particularly those who are legitimately doing economic activity. We're seeking to ensure that those who are already there have even better prospects. So those who are currently farming, they will be relocated, but they will be relocated in such a way that their economic prospects are even better.
The proposed integrated master plan for Bernard Lodge will include residential, commercial, agricultural, and agro-processing facilities. During a recent tour, Mr. Holness said the government was keen on addressing illegal sand mines, squatter settlements, and illegal dump sites in Bernard Lodge. In Parliament Tuesday, the Prime Minister updated the House on his recent overseas engagements to shore up support for and initiate action against climate change. Work continues to mobilize $100 billion annually by 2020 to assist vulnerable countries with climate change adaptation strategies. Though woefully lacking, Mr. Holness says an additional $7.5 billion has been pledged to support the Green Climate Fund. And Jamaica received direct funding of $1.8 million for climate action. The Prime Minister used the sitting to unveil the island's three-pronged approach to not only access climate financing, but also to climate-proof the Jamaican economy and society.
We will continue working on strengthening our economy and ensuring better fiscal management, because that is our first line of defense against climate change. We will continue to be global advocates for the increased mobilization of public and private funds for mitigation and adaptation, including but not limited to the Green Climate Fund. And thirdly, we will continue playing our role of regulator and market maker to attract more private sector investments into the green, blue, and circular economy to generate employment and growth opportunities.
By Wednesday, the Prime Minister was in southeast St. Elizabeth for the commissioning of the $630 million Essex Valley water supply system. The pipeline put in by the National Water Commission is expected to serve 3,300 households across 14 communities in the parish. Mr. Holness urged beneficiaries to pay their water bills and conserve on the commodity. Wednesday also saw Prime Minister Holness breaking ground for the $43 million Western Child and Adolescent Hospital. To be constructed on the grounds of Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James, the 220-bed facility will provide specialized care from birth to 18 years. The green building is a gift from the Chinese government and will be constructed over the next 2 years. Mr. Holness welcomed the hospital, saying it will move the health sector forward.
Health is essential to human capital development and therefore key to national development. On the Human Development Index, Jamaica's score is 0.732, which places us in the high human development category. And I'm confident that this hospital that we are breaking ground for here, I am sure will move us about 2 or 3 places up.
The Prime Minister used Wednesday's groundbreaking to announce that he will be going to China to explore further investments and trade possibilities in the Asian country. Mr. Holness will be joined by Foreign Affairs Minister for the November 5 to 9 China International Import Expo in Shanghai. Jamaica was invited to participate as a guest country of honor. As he reiterated Jamaica's openness for business, Prime Minister Holness called on local entities to boost their exports to China and other markets.
We need to start to explore what are the areas in which we have competitive advantage and comparative advantage that we can produce here and send to China.
Back in Kingston Thursday, Mr. Holness discussed his plans to participate in the 2019 China International Import Expo with the country's ambassador to Jamaica. The two, along with their delegation, spoke about trade and investment possibilities in their respective countries.
We're very happy to support this industry because it brings in employment and some amount of foreign exchange.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness Thursday as he broke ground for the newest business process outsourcing centre to be built in Portmore St. Catherine. The GTech complex will provide 24,000 square feet of purpose-built BPO space to accommodate 4,500 workers on 3 shifts. Work on the $3.5 billion investment is to start immediately and should be completed in 18 months' time. Prime Minister Andrew Holness held talks with the President of Trinidad and Tobago Thursday. Expanded bilateral and regional cooperation were among the topics of discussion. Before that, Mr. Holness received a visit from Minister of Local Government and Community Development Desmond McKenzie. The Prime Minister was told that 2 garbage trucks worth $50.6 million were procured to provide service for Jamaicans in Kingston, St. Andrew and St. Thomas. Mr. McKenzie also informed that a contract was signed with the Jamaica Social Investment Fund for the construction of a $217 million state-of-the-art power station in Port Maria, St. Mary. And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us again next time for more of the news stories coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister.
So many wish they could visit our shores. We live where they vacation. Brand Jamaica beckons all from the 4 corners of the earth.
Well, as a Jamaican, I have great pride in selling it. Your pride that you sell Jamaica with is something that it rolls off. Jamaica has so much to offer, and every time I have the privilege of bringing an executive down to Jamaica, an executive from an airline or a tour operator or a travel agency, and you take them across the country, the pride that they said, wow, I can't imagine, especially when it's their first time. Wow, I love this.
Build it. Cherish it. Our wealth is Brand Jamaica.
Now, we journey to the West. There we learn how to relax while enjoying some of the best of Jamaica. Let's go to the Montego Bay Marine Park.
We all know that Montego Bay St. James is a magnet for visitors from near and far. It's well known for white pearly beaches, a lively hip strip, and world-class resorts. But there's another venue in the heart of the city that I can't wait for you to explore. Can you guess what it is?
The first designated marine park in Jamaica.
Montego Bay Marine Park is a protected area
and our main role is to care and protect what's in it. And the park itself goes, say, from the border of Great River all the way up to Tropical Beach, and everything underneath and on the surface. So what we do, we patrol to ensure that people adhere to the fishing regulations in particular, or the boating regulations, the users regulations. We also do scientific research, because we have to make sure that the park is healthy.
But protecting the sea and its marvelous inhabitants is just one of the many beauties of the Marine Park Trust, which was established in 1991. It also has a mandate to increase environmental awareness and stewardship through informative and engaging activities.
Summer camp now, what we do, we teach them, we have classes every day. Again, coral reef, fish, mangroves and so forth. We take them out. We have swimming classes, snorkeling classes, and they also, well, most of the times they get a catamaran cruise as well. So we have a mangrove seedling project, which our science officers does. So we collect seedlings, we grow them, we give it to schools so they can nurture them. On certain days we go out and we plant them. Like World Wetlands Day, we try to do that.
And there's more.
We have an educational component as well, where we visit schools and different communities, organizations. And we tell them what we do. We talk about pollution, how to minimize that, recycle, refuse, reuse. I'm sure you have heard about that. And the children, the school kids come to the park, they get a lecture and all you need to know about coral reefs, mangroves, birds, anything like that. And then most of them, we take them out on the water on the glass bottom boat tour so they can see for themselves.
I don't know about you, but I want to experience for myself what these children encounter on the glass bottom tour. This should be fun.
Huh? Can I kiss it? No, no, no.
It's actually upside down, you know. This is how going in the water.
Oh, oh yes, because it's gonna float. Wait, my hand first. It's so scary.
You feel him walk
a bit. Oh my God, it's moving! Ah! Where's his head? Oh, it's actually moving.
We also eat those.
Yeah, people eat them.
Oh my gosh! The rangers ensured that I had the full experience by introducing me to a few of the remarkable underwater creatures. I was even introduced to the different types of seagrass. Who knew the ocean had grass too?
Manatee grass, right? So these are very common seagrass that you'll find along the shores in Montego Bay or any regular beach in the Caribbean. This is an algae. It's called the dictyota.
It's very cute.
Yes, but the problem that we're facing, due to runoff, you have a lot of algae taking over the reefs. So these will grow up around the live corals and actually smother them or prevent them from, reaching their actual potential. So when you have a lot of runoff with nutrients and different things, components in the water, pollutants, you'll find them growing and overpowering the corals.
So as you can see, the glass bottom tour is a soothing and unique element of the park, riding into the sunset and appreciating the gifts of nature. But there's one more component of the tour that I can't wait for you to see. Feast your eyes on Montego Bay's very own mangrove forest, known as Bogue Lagoon.
We have egrets, we have pelicans, we have manowars, otherwise known as frigate birds. You can have up to 400 to 500 birds nesting at sunset, and you watch them coming in.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shimakibu.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Come again.
I will. Trust me, we've realized that beyond the resort life, there are far more things to do here in St. James. So why not make some time and go out there and enjoy some of these authentic and informative experiences. You won't regret it. Businesses operating within parishes under the state of emergency, your closing time has been extended. In St. Catherine and Clarendon, clubs, fast food restaurants, petrol stations, and establishments operating under a tavern license, your opening hours are 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. For supermarkets, grocery shops, haberdasheries, and other businesses, opening hours are 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. In Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. James, business closing time is between 10 p.m. and midnight.
Keep we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it. Keep we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it.
No dash, no paper, no dash, no plastic. Dispose your garbage responsibly. No know how to recycle, learn it quick. And if you drop it, better pick up every piece of it. Plastics last forever, don't forget the bits. Cause when them touch the street, them end up in the sea. Collect pan the reef where they fish them feed. And when you want seafood, I eat your
Keep we
eat.
island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it. No dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica.
We've come to the end of the show for today, but catch us again tomorrow on this channel. Here's a reminder to send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm. You may also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
We are back with another exciting, innovative, and inspiring season.
It takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness, being consistent and persistent in whatever you're doing. That's the bottom line.
Business exists to add value to people's lives. And if we're not doing that, might as well we knock down the store and just call it a day.
It's a season 3 of Creating Wealth, Mondays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art, I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
ICAJ hosts their annual business conference here at the Jamaica Pegasus under the theme Megatrends 3.0, Changing Times, Changing Strategies. I'm your host, Mita Prasad Webb. Please stay tuned for highlights.
The world is changing. We're talking about this everywhere I go. The pace of change is unprecedented. And so, yes, I know we're accountants, but our acumen on technology, we're going to have to beef it up. We're going to have to know about big data, cloud, cybersecurity, virtual reality. This is not an environment of tomorrow where you can say, well, I'm just a numbers person. Those days are over. And so today, what we're talking about is that technology makes things a little more seamless. So we always talk about what happened with Blockbuster. We talk about what happened with Kodak. These are case studies that'll be around for years and years. But unfortunately, there are some iconic companies that will be case studies as well. It'll be Radio Shack. Might be Yahoo. It might be Toys R Us. It might be Borders. There are companies that I grew up with that I thought would always be here, and yet they're gone. So the question is, will you be here in 3 to 5 years? Will your company be here in 3 to 5 years? And what are you doing about it today to make sure that you will be? So when we talk about the world, I meet people who will say, well, Kimberly, I'm just here in my bubble. No one's going to touch it here. Guess what? I was here before I was here. I've been communicating with your team at the Institute of Chartered Jamaican Accountants for probably close to 6 to 7 months. And so if that is the case, that means that just me not physically being here isn't something you're just like, oh, she's not here, I shouldn't be worried. You should be worried because technology means we're only one click away. And so as Jamaica grows and the economy grows, what you don't want is for companies to bring in other accountants because you are the supply, you are the experts, you are the professionals. When they're looking for someone to build a new practice area or to lead a new division, they should be here with the Jamaican accountants. It shouldn't be, oh, we got to pull someone else from the U.S. or another island or here or there. Now, that could be what they want to do, but they shouldn't have to do. And so when we talk about change and what does that mean, there's good news and bad news. The good news is, as a profession, we're purposeful, we're data-driven, we don't like ambiguity. We're really good at giving you answers. We're organized. We like checklists because most of us prefer to go down checklists. We're compliant. We make sure we're following the rules. We're rule followers. We're all of those things. And no matter where I go, there are some things about us that are the same no matter where I go. And that's the good news. The bad news is that we're purposeful. We're data-driven. We don't like uncertainty. Because in a time where you have to be innovative, in a time where you need ideas that are so out there that someone says, that'll never work. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ideas that people would say would never work. Because what I know is this, surely they told Larry Ellison that. Surely they probably told Bill Gates that. Surely they told Mark Zuckerberg that. Surely they told any one of the leaders who are here today and are billionaires, they said that'll never work. That's the innovation that we have to open up our minds and hearts to. And that's what we have to recognize in the megatrend environment of changing times. Recognizing that what we do and how we do it has to evolve and change. So we've got some trends. And I'll just give a couple of things that I do to stay abreast of everything. And I know it's hard because you're like, Kimberly, it's so much. I've got kids, I've got work, I've got elderly care, parents, that, elder care I need to do. I get it. It is busy. But somehow you've got to figure out how to source the information when you need it. Now, for me, I have a lot of different data sources. I've got FASB alerts, SEC, the Journal of Accountancy, the Maryland Statement. I've got the Fortune, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, all of these different alerts coming into my phone and into my email so that I'll know what's going on in the business world around me. Because you can't ask really good questions. You can't manage risk if you're isolated. That's why understanding the trends around you are so important because you're going to miss something if you don't pay attention. And so, yes, you've got to pay attention to Brexit. You've got to pay attention to what's going on in Venezuela and geopolitical instability. Your companies could be multinational, and there's opportunities for you to go and work in different offices. Yes, you have to pay attention to what's going on in the financial world as it relates to who's able to pay their bills and who's going to bankrupt on their obligations, and who, with the tariffs that are currently, that argument that's going back and forth. You have to have enough awareness to know where to go. You don't have to memorize it, but you do need to say, when I need it, where can I go find it? Get that source in your environment. And then from a regulatory complexity perspective, the regulations are changing. There's an opportunity for you to add feedback. I'm sure the Institute would, lobby a position on your behalf if they knew that there was a position. You have to be active participants in the environment that we're in. And I know in Maryland, they'll ask us to write letters. They'll ask us to show up. Hopefully you're showing up and you're participating in your own environment and being an advocate for the profession. And then, of course, the two areas I left were technology and workforce changes. From a technology perspective, we know that in today's world, we've got the Internet of Things. We've got refrigerators that can call out for soda. When you walk in a grocery store, your phone starts beeping with aisle 9, aisle 10. We know that when I grew up, it was the Jetsons, and having a robot in your home was like a thing of unbelievable. It just wouldn't happen. And yet, if I say the wrong word, Google is like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And isn't that nerve-wracking a little bit, right? That they would even wake up to know that you said some word. The world is changing. And so even as we talk about workforce changes, a lot of those workforce changes are coming from our generational differences. Our Zs, born typically in the late 1990s and the 2000s, and our millennial colleagues born in 1980 to about late 90s, they don't want to work the same way that Gen X. I'm a Gen X. And they don't want to work the same way. And I get that. The quality of life, you want to have the ability to have the summer, you want to live, you want to see the world. But you know what? There's no fun without finance. Because how many of you have ever been on a vacation without any money? There is no fun in that. So you need a great job to fund your habits. Our young people can mentor us, our young colleagues. They deserve their seat at the table. Yet at the same time, people who are boomers and traditionalists, they also have context and wisdom. There is a compromise and meeting of the minds. And I'm so delighted that I get to talk about what that means. And so technology is everywhere. And a lot of times, boomers mostly, and some traditionalists, they're in denial sometimes. So if you're in those categories, they say, well, Kimberly, this too shall pass. Well, I don't think social media is going to pass. I mean, I get it, and I say this everywhere I go because I'm going to own it. When Facebook came out, I was years before I actually had a Facebook page because I was like, who wants to see me at the sunset? Who cares what I had for dinner? I mean, I was just like, does it even matter? And those famous last words, I wouldn't be working now if I got in the stock what I should have. So I say that to say, let's not ignore this by thinking this is going to pass, because it's not. Especially when you see in the manufacturing environments. That was before automation. This is after automation. Now, it might not be your job function, but if you're doing anything that a machine can do, over time, your companies may make tough decisions about who does that work. Okay? So it doesn't have to be scary if you're prepared. So we all need to bring our A game and pay attention to the mega trends because it's important. We know that technology is driving transformation. If you were able to go into your environment and save money, figure out how to create and drive revenue, enable transformation, imagine how much more valuable you would be. Imagine how well positioned you would be if they were making tough choices.
What are the key points of your presentation this morning?
So the key points of my presentation are that we have to continually evolve and change, and looking at the trends will help us be in a better position.
Is this your first time here at the Chartered Accountants Conference?
Yes! This is amazing. The energy, the enthusiasm. I walked into this room and immediately felt energized, like caffeine. So I'm really excited to be here.
How would you say conferences of this nature benefit the industry?
So conferences like this, and what I really want to call out is that the president talked about doing a conference that wasn't about technical themes. So this conference that talks about other things that make us well-rounded, that give us perspective, that help us grow and learn, I think are amazing, because this is exactly what we need to know. We need to know what's going on in the world around us, and we need to discuss how those help us in our day-to-day jobs and how we may need to change our strategies.
Talk to us about the theme of your presentation, changing times, changing strategies.
So I really followed the conference theme, and I really wanted it to be informative. I wanted it to be a call to action. I wanted to talk about what every person in this room could do to be intentional and to be accountable. And so changing times just speaks to how technology is changing everything, and we need to change our strategies. So I think they're related, and I'm excited about that.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think that we are all capable easily of doing what we need. When we talk about inspirational, motivational, hard work, persistence, high integrity, ethics, that's the very definition of the Institute of Chartered Jamaican Accountants. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future.
Great design is not only how things look, but also how well they work. The GLC, more than meets the eye.
Full-service HR solutions. Whether attempting to increase market share, improve profitability, or add staff, every company is trying to grow. Unfortunately, every company also encounters challenges and experiences pain during the growth process. Not surprisingly, many executives don't have the time to address these challenges without shifting their focus away from revenue-generating tasks. That's where we come in. At Doggin Global, we're passionate about helping people like you grow their businesses, take better care of their employees, and enjoy a higher quality of life. And we've been doing just that for more than 17 years. What sets Doggin Global apart from other HR outsourcing firms is our ability to create customized and scalable service offerings that not only meet your organization's current needs, but also can grow as your business grows. Why our model works. We deliver our HR services in one of two ways, either through a professional employer organization arrangement, PEO, or through an administrative services organization, ASO, arrangement. Professional Employer Organization, PEO. Under a professional employer organization arrangement, your company enters a co-employment relationship with Doggin Global. This allows us to act as the employer of record for your business, facilitating shared liability with Doggin Global on employee-related matters. This arrangement also gives us full authority to perform many of the tedious administrative tasks associated with being an employer, payroll administration, benefits reconciliation, etc., on your behalf and process all employee-related taxes under our tax identification number. Administrative Services Organization, ASO. Doggin Global ASO model allows you to pick and choose from our wide array of services to create a custom offering designed to support or supplement your current in-house HR staff or internal processes. This a la carte approach is more like traditional business process outsourcing and vendor-client relationships, and works best for large and established companies that already have an HR infrastructure in place. For additional information, contact us at email info@doggin.global, website www.doggin.global.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
If you look at the major economies of the world, so we looked at about 46 or 50 of the major economies, and we said, okay, are they seeing growth or not? And that chart tells you what percentage of those economies is seeing positive growth. And so what you've seen is, this is the first time, going back 10 years, that so many countries around the world, including here in Jamaica, by the way, are seeing strong growth. So it's a good thing, right? We've got, not only do we have strong economic growth globally, it's also synchronized. And that's generally a good thing because you want all countries to be sort of, you want a rising tide that lifts all the boats. The evidence from tariffs is that you end up supporting unproductive companies making horrible products at very high prices. I'm also a Gen Xer, as Kimberly is. I grew up in India. I can testify to crappy products at high prices made by horrible companies that shouldn't have existed, right? And so I'm sure there's folks in this room who can understand that as well. On the business side, we have companies coming in saying, oh, come on. I saw all this big global growth. There was tax reform. I was going to make all these waves of investments to capitalize. Now you're telling me my supply chains are going to get messed up. So most companies are sort of in wait-and-see mode now. There's also a bunch of firms that saying, you know what, I'm going to try to find local substitutes, and are coming to us and saying, I can't find them. I can't find local substitutes. So what am I going to do, right? Now, that's the broad evidence. Personally, I'm actually not sure what's going to happen. If that's what's going to happen, or if we might actually see some benefit, because there are examples, the little thing on the blue, which is hard to read, there are examples where tariffs have worked. Many Asian economies where companies have been protected for a while, as long as there is competition and as long as there's a push for productivity and investment, you actually do see the tariffs sometimes do work. So that gets us to why all of this is happening, which I think is useful for people to understand, certainly from the US perspective. What happens to the exchange rate? So the theory, the economic theory would tell you that all these tariffs at the end of the day are not going to make a difference because the currency will adjust and imports will become cheaper, exports will become more expensive, and you'll end up with a trade deficit again. You might see, a reallocation. So maybe there won't be as much metals imports, but there'll be some other imports, right? And so overall, the trade deficit will remain the same. That's quite possible. One thing that we've seen is when you look at the US dollar against a bunch of its trading partners, one of the reasons we think that the supply chain has gotten hollowed out is because the exchange rate, this is a chart of the US dollar against a bunch of currencies. The US dollar appreciated in the late 90s, and that is coincident with this sort of decline as a domestic supply chain. A lot of people call out attention to China, but it's not just China, it's the appreciation of the dollar. And what we've seen is that the dollar has stayed at a high value against some of these trading partners since then. So against the Japanese, against the Koreans, you've seen that the dollar has stayed high. And so it is entirely possible that the dollar might adjust, which means that we may end up in a situation back in the 1980s, which again has implications for trade. Now, any of you might remember your history. In the early 1980s with the Reagan administration, we went through something similar to what we're going through now, right? Voluntary restraints on imports, tariffs on a bunch of imports. The target then was Japan and Europe. Now it's China. It didn't work. It didn't work because the exchange rate appreciated and the deficit stayed. And so we ended up with what's called the Plaza Accords of 1985, which was a devaluation of the US dollar, effectively. Some of those people who were involved in those negotiations back in the 1980s are in the administration today. So you might see, I personally would be watching for that to see what happens to the exchange rate. But I am here to tell you, as I tell most of the companies that we work with, if you are holding your breath expecting that all this tariff noise will go away, you should probably start breathing. We have a very resilient global economy, strong, sustained growth for several years, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, but you're starting to see this concern. And one of the concerns, the most important concern that we're seeing from businesses is what is happening with all this trade and geopolitical uncertainty. And what is happening is the fact that there is an escalation, no question, and the escalation is happening under trade auspices that give the administration in the US a lot of authority and a lot of leeway to change practices. And if you look at the words that are coming out of the administration, you will see consistent language about this. Most of that is geared towards the third point, that is to turn around 20 years of a decline in the US supply chain and try to make things better there through more domestic sourcing, through more investment, and through more protectionist policies. And is that going to work? Is anybody's guess? The empirical evidence is not strong. But then we've also not had this kind of a situation where you've got an administration saying, we're going to try to do this.
Give us some feedback on your presentation today.
Well, I think, we wanted to make the point about what's going on with the broader global economy, issues around trade and tariffs, which I know are on top of mind for most people. They are concerned about what they're seeing coming out of the US. And so we wanted to make sure that we kind of covered some of those issues. I think the main point that I wanted to make was that we are in slightly a different environment where you do have a lot of global growth going on. It's been 10 years since the global economy has been in this situation where there's been such strong growth. And so having these trade issues, these tariffs issues are a little bit of a cloud that a lot of business executives have been telling us are certainly concerns for us, and so that's why we've been developing a perspective on that.
Speak to some of the trends in your field and how they help or harm our local trade.
Well, I think there's a couple of trends that I'd probably call out. One is the fact that even though you've had very strong global growth, it hasn't translated to the kind of global trade and investment flows that we've got used to at least last decade. So 10 years ago, we were in a strong period of global growth, and there was a lot of global trade, there was a lot of global investment, cross-border flows of services and goods. This time, it's still strong growth, but there's not commensurate growth in trade and investment. And so one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is why that's happening. And then certainly now that you've seen more action on tariffs coming from the US administration, that's also acting as a dampener on further growth of trade and investment. So I think one of the big things that we're seeing is the fact that most people have been wondering whether the tariffs are really going to, are they going to stick around? Do just wait it out? And one of the points we've been trying to make is to understand why the tariffs are coming by looking at issues around the domestic supply chain, particularly in some of these advanced industries, where what we've seen is that over the last 20 years or so, the majority of the growth that the American manufacturing sector has seen has not been shared by small and mid-sized companies in the domestic supply chain. All of that growth has gone to the largest companies And the smaller and mid-sized firms in the domestic supply chain, by and large, have seen negative growth rates. You've seen companies or establishments shutting down. And that matters because the majority of workers, the majority of investment is in that supply chain. And so when the supply chain doesn't see strong growth, it has a knock-on effect on things like wage growth or investment growth or technology readiness or productivity growth, right? And so that's really what we're seeing, or what we're looking for is when you have this new kind of environment around tariffs, is that combined with things like tax reform, is that actually going to see, are you actually going to see a wave of investment coming into the supply chain? That's what we're looking for.
Talk to us about what's unique about the design of this conference.
This conference is geared towards getting persons prepared for the change that is happening, the disruption that is happening in the world today, and for our leaders to understand the change and what it means for them. And that's what's unique about it. In fact, that we are focusing on it. It's not really a numbers crunching IFRS conference. It's really a true business conference where we can focus on other things outside of accounting.
What were some expectations that you had of this conference?
First of all, I expected to have a very high level of participation from our members and from the business community. I expect that our presenters would deliver on the topics that were selected for them in accordance with the objectives of the ICAJ. And so far, we are very pleased that we are meeting those objectives. It's changing time, changing strategies, and we really like to impart knowledge to our membership and to the business community, so I think that expectation is paramount.
More from the ICAJ Business Conference when we return.
Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your half-hour dose of the business of real estate, from laws and concepts to reality, building, buying, or renting. Or what about trends in decor or renovations? Home Sweet Home will keep you up to date.
Violence against women is a violation of human rights. Its impact ranges from immediate to long-term physical, mental, and sexual consequences, sometimes resulting in death. It negatively impacts women's general well-being and can prevent us from fully participating in society. Be a better human being. No more violence against women. No more.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point, dissecting the issues. Offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Career Moves has always explored interesting careers, highlighting all you may not have known about them. This season is no different.
Coming back to Jamaica, everyone's like, Fizzy what? Fizzy who?
When you find a bright boy or girl in the class and people say, what are you going to be? The parents will say, you have to go be a doctor, you have to go be a lawyer. Nobody says you have to go be a politician.
Let me see your hands!
Tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
If you are just joining us, Business Access TV is here at the Jamaica Pegasus for the ICAJ Annual Business Conference.
Let's talk about encryption for a little bit. Encryption today is not what it used to be. Encryption today is actually very, very simple. I mean, you can do it on your phone, on your laptop, on your tablets with just a couple of clicks. So by all means, encrypt the data that you consider sensitive. It's very easy to do, and it's a very, very effective way to achieve data security. If an app that you're looking at or looking at installing, if it seems too good to be true, chances are it really is too good to be true. I mean, this one app is not going to change the world with just a couple of clicks. That's not impossible. You want to ensure that only the applications that you have on your devices are the applications that are necessary for the execution of your function, of your job function. So don't have things that are installed on there that, you know, is just on there just because it looks kind of cool. It's nice to have that sort of stuff. Many times those apps, especially the ones that seem too good to be true, all they are backdoors for stealing your data. Email is the most widely used tool to compromise data security. It's a low-hanging fruit. The truth is, hackers by nature are actually very lazy people that really don't have to work hard for what it is that they're getting. So if they can do something, if they can send out 1 million emails with malicious content or malicious link, all they're really interested in is that 100 people click on it. They're not really interested that 1 million people have actually clicked on it. And really and truly is, as a hacker, they actually don't want to be in your environment, because if they're in your environment, then the likelihood of getting caught increases. So if they can do it remotely, it's much better for them. And they do that by email, by sending an email with a compromised link or a compromised attachment. So always think before you click on any form of attachments that with any email at all. I'll actually take a step back and say to you, think before you even open the email. Because I've seen situations today where the email will come with an attachment, but the attachment is a self-executing attachment. So once you click on the email itself, the attachment executes in the background, steals your data. I know there's a practice that, you know, especially for people who use Outlook, to have the preview pane of the email up and running, because it makes life easier. It is, because you can quickly glance at the preview pane and say, all right, this is what it's about, and you can make a decision about whether to act or not to act. I'd actually recommend that you turn it off, because those self-executing emails actually run once the preview pane comes up. Another thing that you want to do is you want to keep your systems up to date. You want to ensure that the applications that are running on your devices, whether it's your phone, your tablet, or your computer, are up to date. Nearly all the time a vendor releases an update, it's nearly always to fix a security hole. Oftentimes, it's, you know, a small portion of the time is for functionality. If they're going to release functionality, they actually release a new version of the application. But once they publish an update for the application, nearly all the time, it is a security-related hole that they're trying to fix. There are so many vulnerabilities that exist today with so many applications that, you know, you have to, as soon as a newer version comes out, you want to ensure that you keep your system up to date and install the latest versions of software. It's often you have applications or you have data on your devices, and the usage of that data is just, you know, you have it just because. No, don't keep data on your machine just because you need to have it on there. Because it becomes unused over time, it becomes old and you forget about it, and then the next time you remember about it is when you're in the headlines, because, you know, suddenly company data is out there, your machine was compromised, and you remember, oh, I had this folder on my machine. One of the things that we recommend is that once you're done, you set expiration on the data sets that you're using. So once you're done with something, after the reasonable reporting period has passed, move it, archive it into a secure location, an offsite storage or something like that. Now, backup is often not associated with security. It's often associated with other components of IT. But backup is actually a very important component in security. If we think back to the security triad, backup is affected by the availability component of that triad. Now, think of if, for argument's sake, you've suffered a compromise of any kind, and your data, you know, becomes corrupt or lost or anything like that. The absence of a functioning or a proper backup means that the data is no longer available. It means that the system is no longer available. It means that the application is no longer available. And you have failed the availability component of the triad, and therefore you have failed data security. So it's very important to have verifiable backups. Don't just back up your data and say, all right, fine, I'll copy these files over to this folder, I'll run the backup process in this application, and it has copied the file and stored them in a location, in a secure location. Always verify them. We've seen an example where we were called in to investigate a compromise, and the compromise was so bad that we said to the customer, look, give me a backup set, let's start to recover from the backup set. And they diligently showed us the log of their backups. The backup happened every night. The technician checked it off that it was backed up and so on. But when we went to the backup was actually compromised as well. So they're ticking it off that it's being backed up, but nobody is checking to say, is this backup a backup of the compromised data? It just so happens that it was backup of the compromised data, but the backup runs and it says it's completed successfully, and they tick the box. Yes, we've backed up our data. One of the things that I'd recommend here also is that security awareness training, one of the things that we try to do is we try to connect it personally. I know a lot of times, people are doing their jobs and they kind of abstract their work life from their personal life. So one of the things that we do is we try to connect security and data security in particular to your own personal situation. So we'll talk about things like, consider things like how would a compromise of your bank accounts affect you personally, right? And think about all the emotions and everything that goes with that. You can't pay a mortgage and all of that sort of stuff. Think about what will happen if that exact same compromise would happen in the company's bank accounts. People can't get paid, suppliers can't get paid, and that sort of stuff. So one of the things I do, if you try to connect it on a personal level, and you see the gravity or the impact of the situation personally, then it's easier to translate that into business. Achieving data security is not a line in the sand that you draw and you say, boy, all right, I've done all of these things, so my data is now secure. It's a continual process. You have to keep assessing. You have to keep looking at your data needs, your data assets, and saying, all right, is the risk that we face today the same tomorrow? And you have to continually improve. It's a process of continual improvement. I think in security in the security circles we have a common thought that there are really just two types of businesses in the world: those who have been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. And that's a reality. It takes about, the average security incident takes about 30 days to be discovered. And for companies that their pockets are, they're deep and they're invested in it, it may take another 180 days to recover from it. So it could be up to a year in many instances that you don't even know that you've been compromised. Many businesses don't ever recover from a compromise. So to achieve data security, do something. There are many things on the list that are simple to do. They're low-hanging fruits. Just do them. Because doing something is much better than doing nothing and assuming that you've never had a compromise.
The way the technology is going now, it's not even a race for relevance, it's a race for survival. Because if you're not with it, you're going to die, right? In fact, you have to be savvy. So I was tempted to come up here with paper, but I make sure I come with the iPhone. Because if you go anywhere you're presenting now from paper, you're not cutting it. So sometimes when you don't have anything on the phone, you carry it up here, so, right? And some people do it, you know that? Yeah, man, them walk up with the phone and, yes, and moving out that thing on the phone, right? But it's the look, right? And it's the image. And we're going to talk about the image because we really have to change it. Because obviously, technology affords us to do things cheaper, more efficient, all of the above in terms of that. So there are some opportunities there for us finance people. So what's the imperative of our finance professional? First of all, we have to apprise ourselves with the technology that's available across. Right? We're going to discuss some of them, but what I'm saying is that whatever we can do in this small window cannot replace the plethora of different applications that are out there. So as a finance professional within your industry, you have to be researching, talking to IT, looking overseas to ensure that you're aware what is out there. Companies are going through rapid technological change. It's emotionally charged. Every day you hear that there's a list coming out, and you wonder if you're named upon the list. Anybody understand what I'm talking about? It's reality, right? So when we're doing technological changes, right, it calls for proper leadership. And it can happen in many ways. You can even get sabotaged. Because if you don't treat people well, they can sabotage you in the transformation process. So this managing of the organizational impact is key. And I would recommend that if it is major enough, get what we call change management help, right? You may need people who are adept at change management to guide you through this process. Focus on talent and skills, very critical. The skills that we needed yesterday and the talent are not necessarily what we need today and going forward. And that's one of the challenges that we have. Some tough decisions may have to be taken, and we may have to redeploy people. But you have to make sure that we have the right talent and skill to take their organization forward based on the new technologies that we are applying. Cashier-free store, real. Amazon has this. You have an Amazon card. You just walk into the store, you swipe, go in, take what you want, leave, and the process send the bill to you. Nobody's involved. Understand that implications for that. In fact, a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was in Israel and on a tour. And in there you can do the Israel tour. It's a very good tour. But we stopped at a gas station with the tour guide and put the nozzle in his tank, full up, drove out. Asked him, nobody was involved. He explained to me that the nozzle has a microchip, and so does the car tank. The amount of gas that he's taking is recorded, transmitted by a bill to his company from the gas station. Nobody involved. Right? So I saw that, and it wasn't even last year, this is over 2 years ago. This is a sign of where we are and where we are going. So I'm just putting these things up there. And if you want to research it, fine. But I'm just trying to tell you, because we used to talk about the future. The Eptones have a song that said, the future is here, my dear. Because the future is here. So all of what we're talking about, we used to talk about their emerging technologies. Nah, the technology is here. We have to be very cognizant of social media. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm on all of them. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. Because we have communicated and keeping in touch with your team members, knowing what they're doing, your children, your niece and nephew and all of that, this social media thing. So I'm saying to us as chartered accountants, don't have any phobia about it. Get with the program. So our job is not to be fearful of what is happening. Our job is to adapt to the change and make sure that we can perform as professionals under the new systems. Right? Our brain, Tavi. In fact, let's say a man brain, it start work from in his mother's womb and don't stop work at all right until adulthood. When a man brain stop work, when his wife asks him, where were you last night, honey? That's the only time a man brain stop work. Right? But seriously, the computers cannot really replace us. But they will make us redundant if we don't adapt to change. So in summary, as I said before, I didn't intend to give you a technical presentation. I really want to give you what you call a reality check to make sure that you understand that these technologies, I mean, I've been part of change process for a number of years, but never before have I seen so much coming at me in a short space of time. You understand? It's not like one time when you have a time, you don't have no room for error. It's coming, right? Rapid, rapid, rapid. And I'm saying, as accountants, we have to deal with it, grasp opportunities, make things better for ourselves and the organization, and just don't let the bus leave us. All in all, before wrapping up, the question is, are you ready? And I hope you are ready.
PwC is a sponsor here today. Talk to us about that partnership.
Yeah, but PwC, we are very happy to sponsor this conference. The Institute, we have been sponsoring it a few years now. We think it's a very important conference for accountants to maintain their relevance in a very dynamic environment. We think it's value for money to get all stakeholders on board on a conference like this, to share some very good ideas, cover some good topics. So we are always on board and we'll continue to be on board with it.
Today you are also a presenter. Speak to us about the main points of your presentation.
The topic of my presentation was professional accountants maintaining relevance in the digital age. So it's all to do with us as accountants moving with the pace of technology, because we all know technology is taking over almost everything. So we have to ensure that we take steps to make sure that we are relevant. There are opportunities, there are challenges. So my talk, my presentation covered a number of emerging technologies: artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, cyber security, cloud computing, number of different areas. Encouraging the accountants to get on board, familiarize yourself with all these technologies to ensure that you can function properly in the digital age.
Outside of functioning properly in the digital age, what advice would you give young professionals who want to become accountants?
Well, it's a noble profession. I don't think there's a profession that gives you the wide insight into businesses as auditing and accounting. It's really broad-based. I would encourage youngsters to take a serious look at it. I think career choice is very critical. You have to look at something that you have the aptitude for, something that can pay your bills, and something that you like, because those three have to go together. So that's my advice. I'm not going to go to say everybody must turn an accountant. Do the research and make sure. But I'm telling you that's an attractive profession. It's a plethora because of activities, because you have auditors, you have forensic auditors, you have internal auditors, you have financial analysts, chief accountants. So there's a wide range in the profession that you can get into.
Crow Jamaica Risk Management Services, RMS. Risk management has become indispensable to a company's business operations and management strategy in this complex environment nowadays. Crow Jamaica risk management experts help to turn every risk into an opportunity. We are experienced in providing customized solutions to manage risks and increase transparency and accountability of the companies. Our core services include internal audit, internal control review, corporate governance, corporate compliance, etc. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email people@crowjm.com, website www.crowjm.com.
Career Moves has always explored interesting careers, highlighting all you may not have known about them. This season is no different.
Coming back to Jamaica, everyone's like, fizzy what? Fizzy who?
When you find a bright boy or girl in the class and they say, what are you going to be? The parents say, you have to go be a doctor, you have to go be a lawyer. Nobody says you have to go be a politician.
Let me see your hands!
Tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life. Delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
I'm pleased to be here to talk to you about T-Tech. T-Tech is the first company to be listed on the Junior Stock Exchange and as an IT firm, and we provide managed services to persons in the IT space. So if you have network servers to be managed, we will look after that for you, provide a service desk. We also help you to implement your cybersecurity program.
Why did you decide to be a sponsor here today?
Well, one, we work closely with financial members of financial profession because they tend to also supervise IT professionals, and also we recognize that the financial profession needs to understand the importance of cybersecurity.
Give us some clarity on BPOs and share some benefits.
Well, in terms of clarity, overall it's an industry that's very people-centric. So it hires a lot of folks, and it also enables their growth and development. And if I were to think of some what you'd call advantages of the industry, I would say, simply put, it creates options that are not limited by age, race, nationality, or any other factor that usually impacts corporate America. In my example, personally, I was a vice president at age 25 in a Fortune 500 company. There's not many industries that take that kind of a chance on someone who is young and does not necessarily meet the status quo. These conferences from a BPO perspective, for me, the biggest advantage is there's a lot of negative perception and a lot of negative press out there about the industry. And what it does, it deters people who could really have an impact to come in and succeed. So from functions like this, my intention is always to correct those myths and to ensure that people view the industry in a positive light, because it is indeed a positive industry.
So talk to us about CPA Canada. What do you guys do?
Sure. CPA Canada, CPA, Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada. We are Canada's national accounting designation. But as much as I say Canada, we are 100% recognized globally. As such, we are affiliate members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica and recognized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Caribbean. Basically, if someone wants to become an accountant, they usually do a first degree, sometimes they choose to do a second. But at some point in time, they need to become a qualified accountant. Accountancy, like other professions, are highly governed, and as a result, one needs to choose a designation to qualify under. CPA Canada is one such option. It is 100% available to persons who are living in Jamaica. Fortunately, it's 2018, and there's no longer the need to actually go to Canada to earn the designation. Someone can actually sit in Jamaica, continue working, enjoy their family life, and study at the same time. This is actually our second year as a sponsor of the ICAJ conference. It's a great opportunity for us to maintain connections and ties and support our members who are based in Jamaica. So some of these persons who are present here today are actual Canadian CPAs active in Jamaica. And it's also a good touch point for the younger ones who are still undecided as to what designations they want to do. And for those who are qualified, we have a lot of certificate programs that they can now subscribe to. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I particularly like this conference because it's not just 100% accounting topics per se, which can get very technical. It's more of a business conference and really touches issues that are affecting us in the business community today.
Speak to us about the mandate of the ICAJ.
So the ICAJ is the institute that governs the accounting profession. So our members are those persons who have qualified in accountancy to earn the designation as chartered accountants. So essentially our job is to engage with those members, help manage them through their career, and to provide for new members a training of students and the coaching and mentorship of students so that they can become chartered accountants one day. So this is a business conference, and the theme is meant to be there for covering non-accounting issues, because we're trying to attract an audience other than our traditional membership. So the last 3 years, we've done the Megatrends hashtag. So that's why it's 3.0, Megatrends 3.0. The feedback has been extremely positive. I think people like the topics. I've got very positive feedback on the speakers themselves. There's good energy in the room, there's good buzz. So from that perspective, the conference has met our objectives. We have a Probably our largest delegate list ever, just over 300 people. There are about 50 people online. So from a total attendance, yes, it probably has checked that box. From a diversity of the persons who are attending, I think we've fallen a bit short. So we need to figure out how we bring more people into the discussion. This is not intended to be focused only on accountants. So to the extent that we wanted to see more bankers, attorneys, other professions, engineers, we have a topic coming up on the environment and disposal of plastics and how we manage plastics in our economy. What challenges and opportunities that present. That's not an accounting discussion. That's a discussion that anyone who lives and works in Jamaica should be interested in. And so diversity, I think we can improve that. From a production perspective, I think, again, this year we have done a better job than prior years. So we're continuously improving, but I think we can still take the production level up a notch. We want it to be a really high impact type of conference. So you feel as if at the moment you walk in that this is something new and different every year. So we're going to work on those two aspects in the future.
There you have it, another staging of the ICAJ Business Conference. I've been your host, Amita Prasad-Webb, and thank you for watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
The history of zoology traces the study of the animal kingdom from ancient to modern times. In fact, it's one of the oldest scientific topics, as human beings have always lived alongside animals and must have had and passed on knowledge of animals to increase their survival. Between the 18th and 19th centuries, zoology became an increasingly professional scientific discipline. Explorer naturalists such as Alexander von Humboldt investigated the interaction between organisms and their environment. Jamaica is well known among the islands of the world for the biodiversity in its animal species. As such, a career as a zoologist is more important than one might assume. Let's find out more from zoologist Elizabeth Morrison on this episode of Career Moves. Elizabeth Morrison is a zoologist at the Institute of Jamaica. We visited to discuss her interesting field of work.
I'm Elizabeth Morrison. I'm a zoologist at the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, which is a division of the Institute of Jamaica. Zoology is the study of animals, and a zoologist is a person who can do many different things in the study of animals. You can help to conserve habitats. You can do taxonomy, which is studying how animals are classified. And there are many different types of zoologists. You have biologists that deal with fish. You have those who study birds. There are many different specialities. It's very wide-ranging and quite important as we share the earth with animals. The work of a zoologist is very important because, remember, we're not alone on the planet. In fact, we're not even the most populous, even though you think that, humans are everywhere. We're not the most populous species. Insects far outnumber humans on the planet. And we have to live with animals. You have to know how to treat the environment. This is only good sense if you're a survivalist. If you want our species to survive, it's best that we know about other species that inhabit the earth. Even if you don't like animals, they play a role in keeping the earth, the cycle of life moving.
It's often that we find a passion from an early age being the reason for a career choice. For Elizabeth, animals seem to have been in every aspect of her childhood.
I think the first time I remember being interested in animals is when I got a large book called Animals of the World, and from then I was hooked. I read it all the while. I knew about everything that was around my house. I did all of the science experiments where you'd hatch out eggs and see what you got, collect caterpillars, see what sort of butterflies you can get. I had pets, all types, fish, dogs, birds. So I loved animals, and I love things like Animal Planet. I read National Geographic. I had a friend whose father worked at the zoo, and I was always there, always there helping to feed the animals. And that I think really developed my passion for animals and my interest in animals. My work at the Natural History Museum of Jamaica is really very varied, it's very exciting. My first responsibility, I would say, is to maintain the collections of zoological specimens that we have here. We have over 100,000 specimens, and it's ranging from insects straight up to mammals. What it is really is all the animal life that is in Jamaica. We try to have some specimen or some record of it. And this is important for researchers and also for policymakers and people who are making decisions as to how we can manage our resources, our land resources and our wildlife resources, our ocean resources. It's important for us to know what animals are there. We have dry collections and wet collections. The wet collections are mostly for fish and amphibians and reptiles. They are stored in alcohol. So they are normally injected with a type of preservative and stored in alcohol, which needs to be replaced from time to time. that will keep the tissues from decomposing. The dry collections, like say the insects for example, they are pinned out. So we euthanize them really in using a chemical in the bottle that we collect them in. We euthanize them and then we pin them out in position and have them dried. Once they dry in that position and they're put in a case that is airtight and that has in some sort of agent to protect the insects from other insect attack, and they're kept under the right conditions, they can stay for a very long time. Here we're entering the zoological collections.
A key function carried out by Elizabeth at the museum is the collecting and curation of animal specimens from across the country. Take a look.
You recognize this mark? This is an hourglass, and these are black widow spiders. We've preserved them in alcohol. Right. And here they are from Chudley, Cristiano, Jamaica. So a lot of people don't know that we have black widow spiders here. This is, as you can see, what we call the 40 leg in Jamaica, the centipede, a very large one. Not, I mean, it will give you a bad bite, but you know, not as poisonous as some that we could have. And this one was found in Lady Musgrave, off Lady Musgrave Road in 1993. The largest butterfly that we have in the hemisphere, the largest in Jamaica. This is Papillohomerus. Okay, you see the size of this? It is only found in Jamaica. It's an endemic species. And it's now endangered and rare, found only in the Cockpit country and the Blue and John Crow Mountains. It's protected by law. We have to have special permission to have these here. These moths used to be common in Jamaica, very common. They are all extinct now. It's called Urania sloanus, and it used to be so common, people would take the wings and make decorations, you know, put the artwork and put it on ladies' hats. And this one that looks very, very dusty, if you look, this is collected July 31st, 1885. Are you ready for rats? Here we go. Here's some rats, invasive species. This little baby one, mus mus. The scientific name of it is actually Mus musculus. So people are not far off when them say mus mus. So we have a collection here. This jabbering crow. This is an endemic Jamaican bird that flies in flocks over, I guess I've seen it over in the western parts of Jamaica. It's not the farmer's good friend because it attacks. It eats crops. It's a very loud bird, and you hear it going rah, rah, and more like that sound.
There's a sense of freedom which comes with it, that when nature teaches you, you ask questions of nature and it answers back. And it tells you things if you listen. There's something very special and charming about that.
Internal audit. Internal audit service is vital when organizations aim to achieve reliable financial reports and regulatory compliance, navigating risks, streamlining operations, and promoting stakeholder confidence. The benefits of a high-quality internal audit are limitless, especially when you secure yours from a firm with deep industry experience, exposure to hundreds of organizations, dedicated professionals, and proven methodologies. Whether you're looking to establish an internal audit function, attain or maintain compliance with various regulations, mitigate your risk of fraud, or gain an overall assessment of your internal controls, you can count on Dodge & Global for reliable and timely business solutions. We've helped organizations nationwide and across industries to establish internal control structures, create an internal audit function, or improve an existing one, and maintain regulatory compliance. We provide ongoing education as regulations and public perceptions change. We are trusted advisors for management and boards. External auditors can be confident in our work and its results. Let Dodge & Global be a turnkey solution for your organization. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global. Website https://dodgen.global.
We are back with another exciting, innovative, and inspiring season.
It takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness, being consistent and persistent in whatever you're doing. That's the bottom line.
Business exists to add value to people's lives. And if we're not doing that, might as well we back down the store and just call it a day.
It's a season 3 of Creating Wealth, Mondays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
As it relates to the study of animals as a zoologist, I would say that it is really important because when it comes on to things like diseases and things that can affect human life later on down in the future, I suppose, then it would be necessary for persons to study animals.
For people who like animals and such, probably they would do that career, but as for me,
my view on the career of zoologist, I think it's okay, but it almost has to do the same as veterinarians, but it's just that they do a little bit more. And I like pets.
I'm not an animal person, so my thoughts on a zoologist is not that good.
I love animals, as I said, but it being a career for me is too sciencey, if that's a thing. And me and sciences don't work, really.
You get to interact with certain wildlife you don't normally interact on a day-to-day basis. You get to know about various animals, what type of, if they're venomous, how the type of living.
Not much people would think about zoology as a career path, so I guess it would pay more.
I would not be in it for the money, I just be in it for the love of animals.
The University of the West Indies offers a degree in zoology. Lecturer Eric Garraway highlights the requirements to get into the program, as well as stresses the importance of a career in the field.
I'm Dr. Eric Garraway. I'm a lecturer, Department of Life Sciences, University of the West Indies, here at Mona. Zoology is the study of animals. Now, by animals here, we mean not just sheep and goat. We mean the entire group from human beings right down to all the creepy crawlies, the worms and the insects, the corals, all of that, the entire group. The interesting thing is that the average person lives with all of these things around them, but they really don't pay any attention to how we live with them. They don't pay any attention to how the information is gathered. The standard thing, someone walks in and simply asks a question about an animal or a plant, And they expect you to know every single thing about it without giving a thought. Someone has to do the research work. Someone has to gather the information and put it together. Because animals are so much part of our life, we take it for granted. It's like the clouds. They've always been there, they always will be there. We don't pay much attention to them. And that's what happens to the animals. We live with them so much that we forget that we need to study them. Half of the world living things are animals. So if we don't study them, what kind of place would we live in? We wouldn't know how to manage our world, we wouldn't know how to manage our diseases and our pests, etc. We wouldn't know what to do with them. So basically just being able to deal with our world around us means that we have to understand animals. UWMONA offers a wide variety of courses related to zoology. To enter into our program, you need to start with biology at your high school. Basically, we ask you to come in with CAPE or the equivalent. Then once you've got CAPE, then you can do a 3-year degree. If you don't have CAPE from high school or an equivalent, we can offer you a 4-year program, which means you spend 1 year preliminary where you do the preliminary work, then you enter the 3-year program, in earnest. Mathematics is the language of science, so you must have a strong background in mathematics and any science at all. It doesn't matter. But we overlap a lot. Biochemistry, geology, we all overlap. It's difficult to separate the sciences into little pieces. Lots of the things we do require understanding of chemistry or understanding of physics. So I would say a strong background in the science is basically what you need. What we basically offer is a specialization in the science, but the foundation in science itself is necessary before you can specialize. The zoology is so diverse, almost every personality can find something. There are parts of zoology where you spend most of your time in a laboratory. If you're a physiologist, for example, we offer physiology in this department. Physiology is largely laboratory-based. On the other hand, if you're into conservation biology, then you might be field-based. If you like swimming and snorkeling and going out to sea, then the marine biology base. So it all depends on what your interest is. I would think just about any personality will find something in zoology because it's so diverse. It's not like it's one miniature area. It covers all the different gamuts of animals. So if you like working with tiny animals and looking down a microscope, there's a world for you. Now, if you want to go chasing across the forest and looking at birds and all the wonderful things out there, there's a world for you. I'm a field biologist. I love the freedom of being out in the field, being out in nature. There's a sense of freedom which comes with it. That when nature teaches you, you ask questions of nature and it answers back, and it tells you things if you listen. There's something very special and charming about that. I personally love that. But I think in that embodied probably what most zoologists experience, where you can ask questions of nature. You can ask nature questions about the animals around you. And you can get these answers, and you can now use these answers to help whatever we do, whatever the area is. So basically you can help mankind by asking questions about these animals. You get these answers. How do they function? Why do they do the things they do? What is it about their bodies, why they can function that way? How do we apply this knowledge back to us? I think that's what really the reward is. When nature teaches us how to manage ourselves. It's a rather special feeling when you get answers back that you can apply.
I think a zoologist has to love animals. It sounds cliche, but there's some people who are, you can't put them and an animal in the room together.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your half-hour dose of the business of real estate, from laws and concepts to reality, building, buying, or renting. Or what about trends in decor or renovations? Home Sweet Home will keep you up to date.
People don't usually easily recognize areas to find work with a degree in zoology. Here are a few.
With a degree in zoology, you can work at the National Environment and Planning Agency, the Ministry of Agriculture. You're going to be dealing with pest sciences, for example. Health, they deal with epidemiology, how actually diseases are transmitted via insects, for example, dengue, chickpea, that sort of thing. Zoologists also, they work at the zoo. That's the obvious one. And you can work at the museum, because we have collections of animals here. You are also able to go into private interests. There's many pest control agencies, and you are also able to work with non-governmental agencies that monitor the environment. I think a zoologist has to love animals, though it sounds cliche, but there's some people who are, you can't put them and an animal in the room together. But you have to love animals, you have to be curious, you have to be prepared to go into some situations that might not be very comfortable. When I collect in the field, you have to get up early in the morning, you might have to be out there late. When I say out there, we mean out in the wild. There are no roads, there are no facilities, you have to love nature. A zoologist has to be patient. Nature is not going to be there for you all the while. You say, oh, I want to go out and I want to see this butterfly now, or I want to see this lizard now, but you might not. Most you can do is put yourself in the habitat and wait till you can see it. And when you see it, it's well worth it. I remember the first time I saw a giant swallowtail butterfly in the wild, and it was raining. We were in Portland. We had crossed through a freezing river. We hiked up a hill. And when I say freezing, it was very cold and it was very rainy. And all of a sudden it stopped raining. And somebody said, "Homer us, Homer us." And when you saw that butterfly for the first time, it was so big, so beautiful, and so unique. Something that's found only in Jamaica. It was worth all the discomfort. And so I think that is part of the love of the whole thing. You really have to have a passion. One of the great benefits of the job is that I've been able to travel everywhere in Jamaica. I've been through the cockpit country. When I say through, we went right through. Very inaccessible places, very beautiful, very green. I've been to many beautiful river sites. I've been to the Hellshire Hills, the Hellshire that the iguana lives in, very undisturbed primary forests. That is a great privilege of the job, to be able to see things that other Jamaicans, in their ordinary days, they haven't been able to see. And then what I do is that I come back and I translate that out in terms of lessons and lectures, and I try to, share with other Jamaicans, especially the students, so that they know the beauty and the importance of Jamaica and its species and specimens. The main misconception is that we all work in zoos. I guess it's fair that would be the first zoologist that many people would be exposed to. You have to realize, the animals are, you're talking about things from microscopic right up to large animals like elephants, and so that's what people watch on TV, and they think, zoology is all about that. But as I said, there are many different types of zoologists that specializing in many different areas. There are some zoologists that are, concentrating only on one group of animals. There are zoologists that work with snails only. We call those malacologists. And there are many. So we have zoologists that work only with insects. There are entomologists. You have ornithologists that work with birds only. So zoology is a specialized field. The services of a zoologist may be in demand. It's really a niche field. If you're a good zoologist and you are needed to do, say, an environmental impact assessment, or you're going to do a biodiversity assessment of an area, a zoologist could get a pretty decent pay for that sort of work. Government zoologists, we're in the government salary scale under what used to be the National Professional Services, but I think now we're on the science and technology scale. And it is, maybe in the mid to higher range of that scale because of the amount of years that you have to study to be qualified. As a zoologist, you need the basic BSc degree, and often for higher posts, you have to have a master's degree at least, or a doctorate. The more you qualify, the more you'll be in demand and the more you'll be able to earn.
Now, the love for animals isn't the only reason to consider a career in zoology. Here's the advice Elizabeth gives for those who might consider a career in her field.
My advice to young people who may be thinking of becoming a zoologist is that it is a very interesting, varied field to go into. It's something that you can get a lot of job satisfaction from. It's not really as high stress as some other jobs that you may go into. You really do get to see nature, see places that are beautiful. If you like this sort of adventure, then it will be a good choice for you if you like the outdoors. It may not be, at first glance, many spaces for you to just go into, because if it's not IT, it's not banking. You may have to wait if you're looking for a job. But if you want to create your own job, you're going to be an environmental consultant, for example, then you'll be able to gain employment that way. Will always be a need for zoologists as long as there are going to be animals out there, as long as people are interested in protecting their environment. As a matter of fact, I feel they need more zoologists in Jamaica. It's just that there may not be the jobs right now. However, I think that there definitely is need and scope for growth in that area.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point, dissecting the issues. Offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Welcome to The Good Life. I'm your host, Amita Prasad Webb. Last week, we brought you part 1 of our episode on nutrition therapy. Therapist Stacey Aiken had invited us to a woman's retreat to share an evening of health coaching and an easy, nutritious cooking ideas. Join us again as we continue with part 2 of our discussion. So I know a lot of us have issues with our sugar intake. What is the recommended, amount of sugar that we should be having on a daily basis? And what are some big no-nos when it comes on to things that we just shouldn't even think about eating?
Sugar is a major concern. There's even studies that show that sugar has actually a toxic effect on the body. There's studies that show that sugar is highly addictive as well. Generally over the world, especially in the Western world, and we eat very much like an American diet in Jamaica, the recommended amount is about, for females, it's about 60 spoons of added sugar per day. For men, it's about 90 spoons of added sugar a day. So what is added sugar? When I say added sugar, I'm not talking about sugar that's naturally occurring in vegetables and fruits and natural foods. I'm talking about things that whether you at home or whether manufacturers add to food. So for instance, things that sugar is hiding everywhere. Our shelves, our supermarket shelves are inundated with high sugar, high fructose corn syrup. They're hiding in pasta sauces. Sugar is hiding on cereal.
In rice and peas.
Well, it's rice and peas if you're actually adding the brown sugar to the rice and peas, okay? So yeah, sugar is a major concern, and most of it, we just drink it. Because a lot of us, we're thirsty, but we go for our sodas, we go for our juice. In the morning, we pour our orange juice, and we pour a nice 8-ounce glass of orange juice, and that's very concentrated sugars. And so really what we're doing is actually, if you were to actually, well, let me ask you, how much oranges do you think it would take to make a 6-ounce glass of orange juice?
How many oranges? And it's a juicy orange?
Yes.
3.
Okay, now would you actually sit down at one sitting and eat 3 oranges?
No.
Most people won't. So if you think about it that way, you're actually taking away the pulp, you're taking away all the fiber, and what you're getting is just pure juice, and that can go through your body very quickly. Your body absorbs the sugars in the juice very, very quickly, and it shoots up your blood sugar. So can you imagine every time you're thirsty, you're giving yourself a shot of sugar constantly throughout the day, your blood sugar is going to continually go up, and it will. So what has happened, especially in Jamaica, is that you find a lot of people, as I mentioned before, women with diabetes, their insulin response becomes insensitive. Their pancreas wears out because the response to sugar intake is for the pancreas to release insulin to allow the body to absorb the sugar. And what happens is that response wears out over time. So you may find that you have high blood sugar because the body is worn out, right? The organ is worn out. And so it's so easy for us to consume all these sugars without even knowing it. Even some things that we think are healthy, like the cereal bars, the granola bars and things, they're really high in sugar. Yogurts, if you look at the labels, you'll see a lot of them have 15 grams of sugar and sometimes more. So you have to be very careful with your sugar intake. We eat in generally way too much sugar, and especially for our population, we are at high risk of concerns such as diabetes. That can lead to other chronic illnesses such as heart disease and obesity and so forth. So that is definitely something that we have to be aware of, our sugar intake.
I know you had mentioned during your presentation that as Jamaicans we eat a lot of salt. How much salt is too much salt, and what should we look out for when preparing meals for people with hypertension?
Okay, so yes, in general, we tend to love salty foods. As Jamaicans, we love our corn pork and our little pig's tail in our rice and peas and so forth. So yes, especially if you're hypertensive, you really should watch out for your salt intake. the recommended amount of salt, especially if you're somebody who has a potential of hypertension or who is hypertensive, is about 1,500 milligrams. There's some recommendations that's like 2,300 milligrams, but that really works out to about less than 2 teaspoons of added salt, right? And as with sugar, salt is also hiding in a lot of these processed foods. You think of the packaged soups or the packaged seasonings. A lot of those tend to be very, very salty. If you're having a commercial packaged soup cup, the ones that you just add water to, in just 1 cup or in 1 package, you can have over your daily requirement of salt very easily. So yes, in our society, we tend to have a taste for salt, and we also tend to have a craving for salt. Things are never, salty enough. So we end up adding salt or adding salty things to our diet quite a bit. So there are ways that we can cook for hypertensives, of course. There are other things that can help to enhance food's flavor without adding salt. Things like vinegars you can add, things like lemon or lime. So it gives that tangy flavor, is a real flavor enhancer. I think it touches on the similar taste buds that salt would touch on. So you can use lemon rind as well. And you know what? As a matter of fact, our palates are trained, and you can untrain your palate as well. So in about a week, if you're to reduce your intake of salt or sugar, in about a week your palate would adjust to the newness of it all, right? Another place that salt tends to be hiding is our tin foods. So what I will tell my clients is, if you're going to have things like tin beans or canned anything, because they're stored in brine, rinse it. So there are different ways that you can overcome some of the infiltration of salt within the packaged food sector.
A lot of people would complain and say, you know what, it's expensive to buy all these vegetables and fruits and to maintain a healthy lifestyle. What are your views on that?
That's a tricky one, because it depends on what you choose to eat. So if you go into a typical health food store, what you find is a lot of products that are maybe imported. So yes, those health foods may have a higher price. However, I can tell you that, I go to Coronation Market, and there are other local markets, and there are a lot of healthy or health-giving foods, very nutritious foods, the fruits and the vegetables, and the things that are in season. I mean, just the other day, I got tomatoes for $30 a pound. I came up with a bag of tomatoes for $45. All of my grocery for this weekend retreat that we're on now was less than $2,100. And I have produce left over. You have to look at things in a larger perspective. There's also the benefit that these foods have, and it's also, well, if you decide that you're not going to, maybe in some cases, spend a little bit more to go to the market, also in transportation costs, or to spend a little bit more on some of those key items that are at the market, you may be finding yourself at the doctor more often and spending the money there instead. So it's a tricky one. It can be very expensive. However, it depends on what you choose. You can choose things that are in season, you can choose local foods. You don't have to choose necessarily things like kale. Callaloo, which is local, it's $40 a bundle, right? It has very, very similar, and in some cases more nutritious values of certain minerals and vitamins than things like kale, which is touted as a health food. So I think, we have to look around us. Because sometimes we think we don't have access to food, but sometimes they're growing right in our backyards. I can mention things like purslane, or as some country people call parsley. It's a weed that I've grown to love. I found it in my yard. My gardener was weeding it out as an annoying weed. But come to find out that this thing that we're weeding out has the highest source of omega-3 fatty acid in any green plant. And this thing is just growing wild. So, when you look at health food, you have to really ask yourself, what are you putting in that category? Because sometimes we confine that category into things that are bought in only certain locations. And we have to really look locally. I just did demonstrations with using cassava flour, using breadfruit flour. There's a breadfruit tree growing right there. This is things that we can pick. Akis are nutritious. A lot of these things we have in our communities, we have it in our yards, our friends have it. So we don't necessarily sometimes have to go out and buy these things. If we look around us, we can also find it.
Don't go anywhere. Our Need to Know feature is up next. Welcome back to The Good Life. We have a cooking demonstration for you this week, but look out for those need-to-know tips.
Okay, ladies, thanks for joining me once again. And right now we're going to be utilizing cassava flour, right? And we're going to be doing some tortillas or some flatbreads. Could be called crepes. There are many names for it. Pancakes, but what's versatile about it is that we can utilize it as a wrap alternative. So for people who are gluten sensitive, right, this is something you could do. You could also use breadfruit flour as well. All right, but right now I'm doing cassava flour. I find the breadfruit flour a little bit mealy, but you can find a nice fine one and that should be fine. All right, so first I'm going to be utilizing a non-egg recipe. The recipe normally calls for egg, but I'm going to just experiment to see, because I have some vegan friends in the audience. So I'm going to see if I remove the egg, if it will still work. So let's just try this out. All right, so I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. This is very basic. So all I'm doing right now is just slowly whisking, and I have some, this could be nut milk, it could be regular milk, it could be soy milk, coconut milk too. The recipe calls for almond milk. I think I'm using a bit of soy in this one. So what I'm doing is just whisking the liquid slowly into the flour, and what I want is a very smooth consistency. All right, so we're just going to smooth it out, so we don't want to have any lumps in here at all. It's nice and smooth, I think. The lumps are gone. So I'm just going to use a ladle. I'm not going to fill it up too much because I don't want a huge crepe. So this is almost like doing a pancake. I want it nice and thin, right? So I'm just going to pour it in the pan. I use the back of my ladle just to thin it. Just to thin it out a little bit. So I'm trying this one, and we can actually compare it with the one with the egg to see if the texture is any different. Okay, so if you notice, I'm just going to use a nice spatula, and let's see if I can flip it. So the color is kind of golden. All right. It is easy. That's because it is easy. I don't have any fancy handwork. Okay. All right, so cassava. Cassava has many benefits other than it being gluten-free. It has a high value of carbohydrate. It's high in fiber, right? Some people tend to avoid it if they're on a diet, but really and truly, 100 grams gives you about 300 and something calories, but 100 grams is like 3.5 ounces. I don't even think there was, I mean, in one pancake, I don't even think there was 1 ounce in here. All right, so yeah, so because it's a very thin batter, so you could have maybe two really thin pancakes and still be filled without it being a very high calorie. And remember, because the fiber is in there as well, right? The fiber helps to slowly release the carbohydrates. So for people with diabetes or other concerns, the slow release of the sugars in any whole food with a lot of fiber is important to control the blood sugar levels. So we're just going to reserve it here. And let's just finish the batter. Let's just do another one just to see how they cook up. And I'm just going to finish this and then move on to the one with the egg batter. I'm going to be utilizing eggs for this one. So I always break my eggs first in a container because I've had a situation where I'm doing a large batch of something and I'm breaking the eggs together, and one spoiled egg spoils the entire batch. So I'm going to add my, let me use my half cup measure first. I'm going to add my cassava flour slowly. And you know why I'm adding slowly? Because I want to reduce the amount of lumps in my mixture. Because if I was to dump everything, it might just, you know, get clumped together and give me more work in the end. So I'll just whip. So you add it slowly so that you can control the consistency, the smoothness of it. So this one actually has coconut milk. The first one I did had some soya milk. And as I said, it could be almond milk as well. But this mixture has coconut milk. Let's see if we can taste the difference for those people who are omnivores. All right, so as I said, I'm not filling the ladle right up because I kind of want them to be roughly around the same size. Okay. And then the non-vegans can taste which one, if the egg, it makes the texture any different. And as I said, this is not just crepes, but you could actually add a banana to this, right? You just said that. Wonderful. And actually make pancakes. Bright people in the room. And have a nice breakfast pancake, right? That's gluten-free. Real food is a key. You know, in this environment, people get confused as to what real food is. I call them edible products. The things on the supermarket shelves. They're to me just edible products because, you know, for them to sit on the shelf for so long, they have to be stripped of some of those natural oils that will help encourage spoilage. And so what you find is that they strip the foods. So all the scientists are hired by these big food companies, and their purpose is to make food addictive. Their objective is to get you hooked to food, so you just keep buying and buying. They're not concerned about the nutritional value of food, you know. And then they put things to confuse you on the label, like fat-free with something that doesn't have any fat in it in the beginning, right? Right? So these are some beets that I have pickled, and we're going to be utilizing it as a condiment. So these are just regular beets, they're not cooked. So if you notice, I'm using different, there's no ketchup, there's no condiment from the jar. These are all condiments are freshly made. So this is the pineapple salsa. All that is fresh pineapple, diced with some red onions. It could be white onions as well. I like the color that the red onions give though, right? And a little sweet pepper, and some lemon juice, and some olive oil, and I think just a little bit of Scotch bonnet, just a little kick. And I think that's it, right? The next thing beside it is some hummus. So we're going to be using the hummus like as a spread, okay? So rather than mayonnaise or something, you can utilize hummus. And hummus is, we use chickpeas, right? Blended it with some olive oil. Hannah, Laura, you help me with that. What was in there? Some paprika. I normally put cumin in mine, right? Oops, garlic, lots of garlic, okay? Lemon juice, as I said before, you blend it or you can crush it, right? And you make a paste. So rather than having mayonnaise or something, you just spread that to moisten your bread or your wrap and use it as a glue for the other ingredients. And so you're basically building, we're gonna be building your own wrap today, okay? So who wants to start building? This is some beets that have been pickled.
It's a quiet.
You like that? Awesome. All right.
Coming up, Stacy continues to discuss her role as a nutrition therapist.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
If you're just joining us, we've been discussing nutrition therapy with health coach Stacy Aiken. We've already been coached on what to look for when dealing with salt and sugar intakes, and we're about to wrap things up.
What are some new findings in nutrition science?
Well, there's one thing I'm excited about in nutrition science, and it's really health science. It's the whole issue of probiotics. So probiotics are bacteria that promote life. Pro means for, and biotic is referring to life. So within our bodies, within our whole system, we have an ecology that is made up of millions or some trillions of microbial cells. These are cells that belong to other organisms other than ourselves. So there's a recognition that as humans, we're really only 10% human if you think about it, because we have so many more times the microbial cells than human cells within our body. And we find that our gut, this area, the intestinal area, has about, on average, 3 pounds, they say, 2 to 3 pounds of bacteria that are there, that are beneficial for our health. Now, what has happened is because a lot of people, we eat a lot of processed foods, we tend to be very, very hygienic. So rather than picking the mango directly from the tree, we're having it after it has been washed with some chlorine and waxed and all of that. So the natural probiotics that are normally found on food, right, are not there anymore. So you find that we don't have enough of those beneficial bacteria that reside in our gut. So you find that people may have digestive concerns, they may have bloating and gastrointestinal issues, and scientists have been finding that it's linked to our probiotic profile. And so probiotics are those bacteria that are beneficial to our health. And where do you find those? So in fermented foods. So for instance, in natural yogurt. If you notice, there's a catchphrase on the label, probiotics, right? Well, if a yogurt is cultured, meaning if it's a natural yogurt, it will have probiotics in there. So it's not necessarily something that's added. A lot of things, sauerkraut and other fermented vegetables. Kimchi, exactly, which is an Asian vegetable, cabbage that is pickled and fermented. No, some of these processes are natural, where it's actually sat and cured. Others are really just a brine, like vinegar they've added. So you also have to be careful when you look at things like kimchi. It may not be a fermented kimchi, for instance. Tofu is also a product that can be fermented as well. So different types of products are fermented. So health professionals and scientists have been finding out just how important it is to add these cultured foods to our diet. In our Jamaican culture, we do have fermented beverages. I don't think we recognize them as much. Some of those root tonics that some members of our community. I think science is recognizing just how important these things are to our health. There's a recognition that health begins in the gut. So if you have a healthy gut, meaning if you have a healthy profile of microorganisms such as probiotics, your health will actually be improved. So what they've actually started doing for quite a while now, but I think it's becoming more popular as the science is becoming more explored, that these cultures are actually being made in labs. So they've identified the bacteria that are beneficial to our gut, and they've actually grown them in labs, freeze-dried them, put them in pills, so you can actually take a probiotic supplement if you're not aware.
So Stacy, we've had a...
Well, the first tip is to drink more water. I find that we just don't drink enough water, and if we drink water, it will reduce the amount of sugary beverages that we intake throughout the day. Water is very cleansing. This is something that I do every morning. I start my morning with a glass of lemon water. It's very cleansing for the body. It activates the liver, it activates the digestive system, and it's just really, really beneficial. So water, I can't stress that enough. Drink water. People tend not to drink enough water. They're dehydrated and they tend to go for the sugary beverage rather than drinking water, which is what the body is calling for. You know, another thing I would tell people, another tip would be when looking at labels, because not everybody is going to be eating whole foods all the time. So if you're shopping and you plan to eat something that's, you know, is in a package, read the label. The labels are there for a reason. And I find that if the ingredients on the label, if they're hard to pronounce, or if it's a name that is so long that you can't recognize, you might want to think twice, because those things are generally chemicals and additives that may have a negative impact on our bodies. So, and if the list is this thick on something that should only contain sugar and eggs and maybe some sugar, then I would have to think twice about it. So labels, reading labels, nutritional labels, information is right there. Another thing with labels is that sometimes people tend to have the whole bag of whatever they're eating. Even though the label may say 2.5 servings, you tend to have a bag of something and you think that that's one serving. So when you read the label, you may even misread the label. So if you're very sensitive about putting on weight, and for those people who may be watching their caloric intake, so if you see something that is 200 calories and neglect to realize that the label says 2.5 serving in this bag and eat the entire bag, then you would be misled into thinking that you've probably had your calorie requirement, but you haven't because you didn't read the label properly.
So talk to us about future plans in regards to your health coaching.
Okay, so health coaching has evolved for me this year. I plan to do more workshops. We're here in lovely Old Fort Bay at Villa Esperanza for a women's retreat today. So this is going to be just one of many to come, where we're immersing ladies in an environment of like-mindedness to nourish their bodies and their minds. I've partnered with a life coach, Keisha and Dawn, and together we're called True Dragonflies. And so we're going to be bringing you a lot more of these events, so workshops, cooking demonstrations, and talks. And so just, you know, there's just so much happening right now, and there's so much opportunity. People are eager for this information and in different forms. So we're just preparing ourselves and preparing myself to just be a vessel and be a conduit for wonderful health and wellness tips.
So let's say someone wants to contact you about, you know, health coaching. How do they reach you?
Okay, well, right now I work with Dermacare, which is located at Unit 4, Winchester Business Center. So they can call Dermacare and make an appointment with me to see me there for a consultation. As well as you can contact me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Stacey Aiken Health Coaching, where I put a lot of my tips and articles and new research and recipes and resources like that. So those are the places you can contact me.
So thank you, Stacey. I've learned a whole lot today, and I think you've reinforced things that I already know, but I probably should put into practice. Yes. So guys, keep drinking your water and read your labels. You've watched The Good Life, and I'll let Stacey have the last word.
Okay, so these are famous words from Michael Pollan. It says, eat food, not too much, mainly plants and vegetables. Have a good week, guys. Thank you.
This concludes our two-part episode on food therapy. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next week, keep living the good life.